Hey everyone. We are here together with Obi Abuchi, one of our co-authors in the great breaking, like 5 countries bestseller book, 3 different continents. And we have here also Sarah Bellorini, our heart, our engine, our leader of the project. I'm so happy that we're together. I'm Dimitri Wakov, leadership coach, also one of the authors in the book. And today we are going to talk about leadership, and more specifically, we're going to talk about the strength of an authentic and vulnerable you. How can you use that in order to be a better leader, better human being, and better influencer in this world? So I'm going to start with Sarah, and I'm going to ask her to tell me what was the reason, Sarah, to invite Obi in this book.
Thank you so much, Dimi. And it's so awesome to be here with both you and Obi. So apart from the obvious that Obi just like glows with energy and awesomeness, I have a metaphor that I'm playing around with actually about visionary leadership, and it's about breathing. And I feel that Obi is an awesome breather. And so he's awesome at breathing. And so just to quickly unpack that for you. So when we breathe, we are receiving and then we're giving. Okay, so we're breathing in and we're breathing out. And there's that place in between the breath, which is really our core, as Obi would call it. It's our authentic self. And we're all conscious of what toxic leadership is. You know, it's this breathing in, and then it's like the exhale is like, it's toxic. It's full of that piece of us and those parts of us that are not yet integrated and that aren't healthy and authentic and loving and able to lead with vulnerability and empathy and all these wonderful things. When we're integrated and when we can lead from our core, which is what Obi's really awesome at doing and why I invited him into this book, when we exhale, it's from a space of love. It's from a space of integration. So with that, Obi, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. That was so great. I just felt it in my body.
So did I.
That's awesome.
It was so lovely. So Obi, you awesome breather. Tell us how. Tell us what was your reason to get part of the book? What made you decide to be part of this project and book?
You know, it's interesting, Sarah, you using that analogy about breath. And about 18 years ago now, shortly after my wife and I got married, she bought me a book by a guy called John Eldridge. And one of my favorite quotes in the book is from Howard Thurman. And he says, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." And so it's interesting to to hear you say, "I'm an awesome breather." In a way, it's true. And I don't really think about it. I'm really interested in being alive. And that means connecting with what's important, what it means to be human, what it means to make a difference, what it means to serve others. And I'm incredibly, almost obsessed in a sense, passionate about leadership and growing. And so when Sarah said, "Hey, Obi," she wrote this long email. To be honest, she had me at the first line. It was no question. I just thought, I'll let her sweat it out a bit and try and sell it to me, and let's have a conversation. And I'm sipping water and thinking, yeah, just play it cool, play hard to get, and all of that. Yes. Because this is such an important message. If you're a leader interested in life, if you're a leader interested in the life of your people, then this is a critical, essential message. And so it was an absolute no-brainer for me to want to be involved in this. And I'm inspired by the company that I'm in, the other men and everything that they have written. It is an absolute privilege to have other people chanting this message and saying, let's shout loud so that people can hear. Not about us. This isn't about us. It really is about the life and soul of organizations and families and people. So there you go. Bit of a long answer to why I got involved.
Yeah, but it's a perfect answer, Obi. And Demi, I'll just quickly offer something here. And I love what you've just said, Obi, about the fact that it's not about me. It's about what's bigger than me, isn't it? And that is a visionary leadership. That is visionary leadership. And that's a visionary leader's mindset. It's, there's the toxic is fear-based, it's fear-led, egocentric. And the visionary is, it's about something that's so much bigger than me. And I just love that you've said that, because absolutely it's about what's bigger than us. We're here to do big, world-changing stuff and bring people together who really get what we're talking about, or who are really curious about what we're talking about, and who want to join in the conversation. And that's what this is all about.
Yes, absolutely, Sarah. That's absolutely true. So, Obi, that you said that it's not about us, but I would just ask you, just for a minute, talk about yourself. Who are you, and what do you do?
Sure. Who am I? By the way, I am wearing this top is from my mother-in-law, who is a wonderful woman. So I'm British-born Nigerian, and this is in a sense represents me. So I was born here in the UK, went back to Nigeria when I was 7, came back to the UK when I was 17. So I've got a mesh of British culture and Nigerian culture. There's also another thing that's quite significant about my journey back to Nigeria, because it was when I was 7 and we were heading back to Nigeria. I watched a film that just really connected me with a sense of purpose about what I wanted to do in life. And just to give you the shorter version of the story, it's a movie set out in Australia called Return to Eden. Sarah might know it. And in this drama, there's a lady who marries, she's an heiress, wealthy family. She marries this washed out tennis player who's only interested in her for her money, and ends up throwing her into a crocodile infested swamp, and she's almost mauled to death. And I know what you're thinking, Obi, you shouldn't have been watching that at 7. But anyway, she was almost mauled to death, and she's saved by this older guy who ends up helping her out a bit and giving her some money so she could go to a local clinic. And at the clinic, this doctor performs plastic surgery on her and transforms her. And she ends up becoming a model and becomes confident and gets revenge on her husband at the end of the movie. But at 7, I remember watching that and thinking, wow, doctors bring out the best in people. I want to do what that doctor did. He helped her become confident. He helped her develop a greater sense of purpose with her life. I want to do that. And so I locked in on this vision of becoming a doctor until I was 18, and then didn't get into medical school. And so I was at this incredible crossroads. What am I going to do with my life? Because I always wanted to be a doctor. Interestingly, at all of the medical schools that I went for interviews, they said, Obi's not interested in science. And I thought, what do you mean I'm not interested in science? I've got the grades, I put in hard work, I've spent time shadowing doctors. But they were right on reflection. Of course, at the moment, I didn't get it. But on reflection, they were right, because I would have been one of those doctors who would have sat down with a patient for an hour and say, hey, let's talk and let's work out and how do we get the best out of you? And everyone else is saying, doctor, you've got a long line of other people, right? You can't spend an hour with this guy trying to transform them and help them be at their best. You've only got 5 minutes. And so I realized I wasn't interested in science. I was interested in people. And so I ended up going to study engineering with management of all things, really loved the management side of it, went into an engineering firm, hated the engineering work, and ended up shadowing the managing director of our sister company and fell in love with seeing what it was like to operate at a senior level and optimize an organization and get the best out of people. So that then set me on this trajectory of pursuing a career in leadership development and organizational development. And it also helped that a mentor of mine had given me a copy of Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, when I was 18. So that very much, I would say, was the genesis of my passion for personal leadership development. And so now I'm all about helping leaders. There's so much work, great work out there about leadership development at a strategic level, at a tactical level, how to lead teams and all of that incredible work. My passion, what fuels me and my company, Core Leaders International, is about helping leaders master themselves and take care of self first and put that oxygen mask on to give others their best. Because I say this to leaders all the time, you cannot give what you don't have. If you're running on empty, you're going to be giving your people fumes. So that's what I'm about now. So I coach leaders, I train leaders, launching a personal mastery academy in the new year, but very much passionate about helping leaders be at their best. And I'm also, by the way, just want to say, just really, for me, part of what excites me and keeps me grounded in all of this is my beautiful wife and 3 boys. Because for me, what's really important is that I don't just go out into the world and try and change the world, but at home, it's a mess. It's really important for me to live this at home where it matters first and foremost, and then of course out into the world.
Absolutely, Obi. Like that's just the perfect description of integration, because we're talking about this integration of, the in and out breathing, the receiving and the giving, these kind of qualities. And actually, it's so true what you've just said. It's the integration of our lives. We are one person, and it's about taking off those masks and pretending to be something that we're actually not. And that leads to even more toxicity, doesn't it? And in these toxic work environments, we often feel that we have to put masks on so that we can fit in. And there's so much of that that goes on. So it's this inner integration and then the external integration, really, isn't it? So yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. I so love the dynamic in this conversation, guys. It's it's just incredible how when you combine people, when you're together with people who are so heart-oriented and so directed towards helping and serving the world, how strong that can be, right? So thank you for being here with me. I just wanted to offer you that. Thank you for being here and creating this environment with me. So Obi, this book, there are a lot of books on leadership. You could go there, maybe it's one of the most trendy topic nowadays. But tell me, what makes this book special, and what is the superpower of this book?
I want to hone in on something you said about superpower, because the superpower is, I think, surprising. When I mentioned my wife gave me a book shortly after we got married, just before we got married, one of the things that she said to me was, you don't need to be Superman, And what she meant was, don't feel like you got to save me, you got to be perfect, everything's got to be, I know obviously you're courting, you want to win heart and mind of your bride, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But the way I was trying to do it was to almost come across as though I had no issues and no foibles and no weaknesses. And she said it's really important that you are authentic and vulnerable. And that's been a journey for me. That's been a real journey. And so when it comes to the superpower of the book, I think the biggest superpower is you're going to see in 15 men and an amazing woman who set us up, the strength of authenticity and vulnerability and connecting, more than anything, connecting with our humanity, connecting with what it is to feel pain, what it is to hurt, and the strength that gives us as human beings, as leaders. And so I said I was going to come back to connecting with heart and mind, and I'm trying to win the heart and mind of this amazing woman, and now we've been married for almost 20 years. And I hear it in leaders. It's one of the common things, the board meeting, various meetings. How do we win the hearts and minds of our people? Let's do employee surveys, and let's do a pulse survey, and let's connect and let's engage. And you think, well, how can you do that as a leader if you're not connected with your own heart and mind? How can you connect with the vulnerability of people and the strength of your people if you're not connecting with your own? And that's what we're doing in the book, through our own struggles and weaknesses and challenges, and saying, this is what it means to be human. And when you really get what it means to be human, that's when you're more able to get what it looks like to win the heart and mind of another person, to create an environment that we talk about, psychological safety and all of that. You create an environment that helps people bring the best of themselves. And they do that when they feel safe. They do that when they feel it's okay to be human, because we're led in that way. And that is it. That's inspiring. That's strong. That's incredible. That's clear. It's all sorts of things. And I think that's the superpower of this book.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so lovely, the message you're sharing. So, yeah, I totally believe that this is definitely the superpower, one of the superpowers of this book, because it has a lot of superpowers, and it shows now in the world how people are taking it. And one of the things which I want just to add on that is that the beauty of the book is that you have 15 different paths of how to reach the destination of compassion, of empathy, and love, and through it to become a great leader. So this is a great beauty, right? You choose your path, but you have different options. So you can combine them. You can work with one of them. You can combine them and create your own. But you have something there you can refer to of how you can make it. So I want to hear now about your way of doing it and your chapter, because this is your beauty and this is your superpower. So tell me about, walk me through your chapter and your message in the book.
Sure. So my message specifically is the strength of being authentic and being vulnerable. And with all that I've shared so far, it's true that it was a tough one for me. And sometimes it takes some significant knocks in your life to really get the strength. I've had some major ones. From 2008, I remember starting a business that literally flopped. The global economy just wasn't what it needed to be. It was tough. I felt like an incredible failure. 4 years later, I wrote my first book. When the book came out, the people around me were celebrating, and yet I was broke. I was paying our mortgage on the credit card. I felt like such an imposter because externally looked like a success, and yet internally I was thinking, if only you knew, I'm just struggling to put food on the table, 4 years or a few years after that, my mom is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and we're having to deal with the trauma and the challenge of navigating that and having a loved one take something away from you. And then, of course, fast forward to the last 18 months, globally, we've all been hit by the impact and the challenge and the difficulty that is the pandemic. And along the way, various blows and struggles and challenges, I just came to this realization that I was doing far too much to try and control externals, control things outside of me, control markets, rather than really look within. And I talk in my chapter specifically about the last 18 months and the pain. Life hits all of us. Life is incredible and beautiful and amazing. It also throws so many curveballs. Life, it throws a lot of challenging situations our way. It presents us with a lot of pain. And I think in that moment, we're presented with a mirror that says, now, oh leader, we're going to know what you're really made of, because this is going to put more stress on you mentally, emotionally, physically. And what I wanted to do in my book is say, actually, it's okay, because it's an opportunity. That pain and that trauma and those difficulties, when you're authentic, when you are vulnerable, and Brené Brown describes vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. So when you share your heart, you share the struggles, you share the pain, you share the difficulty, you tap into a strength that is beyond your wildest imagination. And it actually takes faith to be able to do that, because for me, it was easy to say, no, I'm going to be strong by... And I say this in my chapter, that sometimes what we do is simply say, man up and push through. And yes, there's a sense in which you've got to do that, but it's how you do it, doing it in a way that says, I just need to be honest about what's going on here and what I'm wrestling with, and having those release valves that help you deal with all of the pressure that can be internal and becomes toxic when we leave it there and just try to push through. And I give 7 strategies for how to do that, from digging deeper to getting support from people around you, being honest enough to say, I need support. For me, with my mum and her Alzheimer's, I joined a support group where I could talk about just the challenge of it. And it was just so liberating to have this outlet to say, here's some pain I'm dealing with. I don't want it to derail other areas of my life, and I can get support, and then I can move on. And so it does take discernment to figure out what's the right channel. I'm not saying this isn't about going up to everyone and saying, hey, I'm having a terrible day, or hey, mom's not doing well. It takes discernment, but it takes intentionality to do that. And I think there's an incredible strength that we gain when we are able to be honest about what's going on and what's potentially derailing us.
Yeah, that's thank you so much for sharing that, Obi. It's very, very powerful, your story, and also what you've written in your chapter. And this word discernment it's so true. Because so many people think, vulnerability is just going around and vomiting over everybody,
Yeah.
And actually, it's a kind of a strategic way of leading, and leading yourself first, and understanding that, and having good boundaries, and all of the stuff, like doing that inner work that we're speaking about here. Because when you're breathing in, in the feminine, and then it lands in this toxic, broken, hurt, trauma space, you're gonna, it's that toxic that's going to come back out at other people, isn't it? Either in the form of anger, abuse, bullying, all this kind of like toxic masculine that we see, or it's going to come in the form of like victim, poor me, all of that kind of victim behavior that we see, and none of that's not great leadership, and unfortunately, so many of us weren't given the skills when we were kids to to behave any differently. I'm from country New South Wales, Australia. We didn't sit around the dinner table talking about emotional intelligence and self-leadership. I'm now 50, and I mean, Dimmy's 33. He's a young millennial, so he's coming to a different generation, and I think it's really interesting. And Obi, you and I are similar. I'm a little bit older.
I'm trying to catch up, Sarah.
Me too, but I'm a little bit back.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's so easy to say, to be a victim of your environment. Oh, well, my boss is being an asshole, excuse my language, or this meh, and make it all about the other. And what we're inviting people to is a deeper conversation with themselves, essentially. Who am I on the inside? Who am I really? When I take up all of that, the false beliefs and just all of the stuff that's kind of permeated into my spirit and my soul throughout the years and the decades of my life, who am I really underneath all of that at my core, in that authentic place? And we're really inviting people into that conversation, to be different on the inside so that then we can be different on the outside. And that piece is really about sustainable change, isn't it? When we change sustainably on the inside, it's a real transformation, and then we can lead that sustainable change externally in our families, in our communities, in our businesses, in our world.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
There's for it to be sustainable, it's got to be deep, it's got to have a strong foundation, it's got to have that depth. And there's this great analogy of building a house on sand or building a house on rock, and both houses on the outside can look amazing and incredible, but then the storms come, and those storms come in the form of different ways. It's personal health, it's financial challenges, it's the market, it's shareholders, it's customers, it's employees, and it just shows the foundation. And I think what we're doing, another thing that we're doing, is helping leaders. And I love, Dimmy, that you said it's 15 different perspectives. It's 15 different ways of looking at your foundation. How strong is it? How solid is it? What work does it need? What reinforcement does it need so that it withstands the challenges, it withstands the difficulties? We don't live in a utopian world where there just isn't going to be the difficulty. And unfortunately, when a house is shaking, and if it hasn't got a strong foundation, then you're operating from fear, and that's when you're bullying, and that's when you're angry, and that's when, sadly, even, and one of the things that I remember having a conversation with a leader recently who talked about the fallout of an environment in his organization that led to a senior leader committing suicide. That's the sad fallout of some of this. If you don't have that strong foundation, then it could lead to that. And not everyone goes down that path. Sometimes it's drugs, and sometimes it's broken families, and it doesn't have to be that way. Please look at your foundation and do the hard work of getting a stronger foundation internally so that it impacts everything around you.
Yes. And just to add, and this has been abundantly clear in the book, in all the chapters, like two things: you don't have to do it yourself. Ask for help, because it is a big thing to navigate all that shizzle.
It is.
I haven't been able to do it by myself. I've invested in coaches and been in various support groups and all that, those sorts of things over the decades. And the other thing is, give yourself a break. It's not like a switch going off. It's not an overnight. It's not a transition. It's not just that, oh, I'm externally moving house, or I'm going to get a new job. you know, for true transformational change, it is this deeper thing. So it's a deeper journey. So really to know that before you embark on your journey, it's like, it's an investment. This is the rest of your life.
Mhm.
You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Obi, before we go and I ask you the last question, I want to, because we know that you have this book and you have another book you're launching. So you can look, right now you are in two books. You have your own book. So can you give us several words on your book? What is it about?
So my book, I mean, there's a lot of alignment with it, really. My other book is called Leading from Your Core. And core stands for clear values, an optimistic worldview, rewarding habits, and empowering beliefs. And very much along the lines of some of the things that we've talked about, far too many leaders lead from a place of authority and power and intelligence and superiority, rather than from a place of purpose or of character, of clarity about their values and who they stand for. And so that's one of the reasons why some of what we talked about now, they're so focused on the external VUCA and all that's going on, rather than the VUCA within, the fears, the doubts, the challenges. And so that's what my book is about. It's helping them navigate a path to becoming a more purposeful, more courageous, more resilient leader by looking within and doing the hard work of leading from the inside out. And I give several strategies in my book for how to do that.
So, what is your message at the end of this conversation towards the audience? What do you want to leave them with?
We are, I think, I want to, and I think it's a joint message, that at the end of our lives as leaders, we're going to look back, every single one of us, we're going to look back and think, how have I invested my time here on earth, right? Have I made the most of who I am? Have I left a legacy that really counts? Or has it been toxic? Have I just made loads of money and gotten to the top of a ladder and found at the end of my life it was leaning against the wrong wall? I desire for you to leave the most enduring of legacies. And the way to do that is to become a visionary male leader, to tap into the ideas in this book, the different lenses, the different perspectives, to stand before the mirror and say, what is it that I need to work on so that I can be so much more alive? I go back to what Sarah said at the beginning. We want you to breathe well. We want you to breathe in a way that's healthy. We want you to live a full life. And that would be my message. It's to you. It's live well. And this is, I believe, an incredible way that will help you do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Obi. And thank you, Sarah, for your time and your energy and your presence.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Jimmy. Thank you so much, Obi. And thank you to everybody for joining us. Lots of love.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.